What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Welcome to Saturday. Big show this evening. We're going to be talking with Randy, NotARubicon Productions, and we're going to be talking about GMRS for ham radio operators. What's his recommendations? What does he think about the whole thing? Plus, most of you probably know Randy, and there's a lot of fun stuff we're going to get into. So hope everybody's ready. Crack open a cold one, because it's certainly hot here in Southern California. I'm going to play some memes, and we'll get started soon. Hey everybody, how's it going? I am Josh, KI6NAZ. Thanks for clicking on the Ham Radio Crash Course. I do want to get to Randy as fast as possible, but I'm assuming a lot of you know Hamvention is this coming week, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on, so I want to dive over, give you some info really quick on that before we get started. As always, hamtactical.com is how you can support the channel. If you like coffee and t-shirts and other merch, the Dayton 2020 shirt, you could probably only buy it today, maybe tomorrow, and still get it before the show, depending on when you're going to Hamvention. And it's going to be limited at some point. Leia will pull it down, just like she does for most of the shows. So anyway, shout out to my wife on making that shirt. Thanks for doing that. Okay, Hamvention, again, reminder, there's a lot going on, which if you go to hamvention.com, pull that up, or .org, sorry, you can find out, all the different events, vendors, talks, all that stuff. But what about after hours? Well, if you're on the Facebook group or you're a member of the patrons, then you've probably seen the little doc that I put up. These are the after-hour things that I'm going to be doing. So Thursday is going to be the VOA tour, Voice of America, and then after that, literally down the street, is a place called Grainworks. We're going to stop in and have a couple of beers. They have some food trucks, so we're going to be hanging out there. So if you have nothing to do on a Thursday evening, hop on out to there. Friday will be at the Hope Hotel. The Hope Hotel is kind of like the hotel for Hamvention, and there are evening rooms that are open for hams to hang out, meet up, talk, all that fun stuff. Saturday's the big show, though. We're going to be at the Troll Pub. Perfect place for YouTubers to meet up. The Troll Pub in downtown Dayton. So if you're interested, that's where I'll be. And if you're curious what I was doing, that's it. All right. Want to mention Hotels on the Air. It's going to be a fun event that Dom, one of our admins, is putting on, which usually goes around the week of Hamvention. So if you're curious about that, it is hotelsontheair.com. Did I get that right? I did. And yeah, it's literally making contacts while people are in Hamvention, just as a fun extra thing to do. So if you're interested, hotelsontheair.com. And there's a lot. I told you. The weekend after we get back from Hamvention is the third annual YouTubers Hamfest, which you can go to YouTubersHamfest.com or YouTubeHamfest.com. Both work. Get you someplace. And then you can go to our schedule, and it'll show you all the things that are going to be going on for, the YouTubers Hamfest this year, which you can check out. And yeah, you can see some of the listings of what we're going to be doing. It's going to be a fun weekend, 3 days, and it's going international. So we'll have a lot of fun stuff there. All right, moving on. You know the man, probably, hopefully. That's part of the reason why he's here. Let me pull up his site here. In fact, there you go. NotARubicon. His channel is, you've seen it. There's a lot of people that are interested in GMRS now, but with the change to the fee structure, $75 to $35. He has wonderful videos, and he's a YouTuber's YouTuber, as I like to say, because he handles his comments very nicely, and we'll definitely be talking about that. So let's bring in Randy, and I'll go ahead and make him feel at home. I have something here, so let's pull him up. Let's see if I can play his opening song there. Can you hear it? I don't know how well that came through. Maybe it didn't, but Randy, how you doing?
Good, Josh. A very wise man once said. No, go ahead.
So, why don't you, if you could, give people a quick little introduction, and we'll work through some questions. Obviously, we're going to talk about radios you would recommend for hams, and we worked on that a little bit, and so there is a little bit of specialty there. But yeah, why don't you give people 30,000-foot view of what you're all about?
I'm a guy that's at home with too much time on his hands. So I used to make off-roading videos, and Now nobody liked watching those. Apparently they weren't good enough. So now I make GMRS videos because while I was off-roading, I needed to improve my communications. CB wasn't cutting it for us. And got into GMRS and decided to start making videos about it. And some people enjoy watching them. Some people don't enjoy watching them as much.
I definitely do. I find them both entertaining and it's edutainment, right? Is that what we call it? Education.
Exactly, edutainment.
That's right. First, I got to mention it because a couple of people mentioned in the chat, wonderful shirt you have on. Everybody was asking what your shirt was going to be before we went live, and you picked a good one as always. So that's pretty good. How'd you get into GMRS? How did that become a thing that you found and I guess you enjoy doing it? I hope you do.
Yeah, well, it's not really a lifestyle for me. It's a method of communication. I got into it because we do off-roading. I lead off-roading groups and events, usually for beginners, and those events get very large. Our largest has been 175 vehicles. And when you've got 175 vehicles that you're leading out in the middle of the desert or through mountains and stuff, we always have a tail gunner at the end that we keeps track of people not getting lost or anything. And with CB, I could never talk to the guys at the end of the last half of our group. Mm-hmm. So I thought my only option was to become a ham operator because I didn't know anything about GMRS or, I thought it was just CB or ham radio, which is what some of the experts told me. So as I was studying to get my ham license, I stumbled onto GMRS radios and tried some GMRS radios, tried a Baofeng, and
the gateway
then got
drug.
into, it really is. And then got into GMRS and found that for me, for just needing to talk on the trail or to whatever on the freeway to our group that did everything that I needed, why would I need to take a test just to talk to my friends on the radio? Yeah, so that's how I got into it.
So for everybody in the chat, this is what it's all about. It's about ham radio and GMRS people coming together to hate on CB radios. That's what we're doing here. No,
we need a common enemy.
I like CB just fine. But yeah, there's people out there that have some kind of belief that I know there are people that have animosity between the different radio services, but I don't. I think they all have value, and you just described an instance where this is the kind of the perfect solution for what you do, and it's something that helps you do what you like to do, what you're passionate about the most, better, right?
Right. The other thing I forgot to mention, one of the reasons why I picked the GMRS is to get these people that come with us on our events. They're not radio people. They're not radio dorks. They're just normal people.
Right.
But they need to listen to us and listen to our instructions. And they're not all going to go out and get ham licenses. They're not going to do that. So they can just stop at Walmart on the way to our event and pick up a little bubble pack FRS radio and listen to us and talk to us, and gets along just fine with GMRS. Right. So
yeah, I will mention for everybody watching us in the chat, we are paying attention to the chat room, and if you have questions, just tag me Ham Radio Crash Course at Ham Radio Crash Course, or say question in your question, a novel idea, and we'll make sure someone gets to it. But we'll have a back end Q&A section, particularly as we start talking about radios. That may lead to more questions there. So I think you kind of answered my second question is, why'd you start your channel? It sounds like one, off-roading videos, and then two, as you were probably spending time with these radios, new people coming out, sometimes it's a lot easier to send them a link to something that you did to get them up and running than anything else. Is that kind of why you did it, or why you shifted to GMRS?
No, not particularly. Well, I shifted to GMRS because that's what fit my need. Oh, the videos I shifted to GMRS really just because it's easier to make a video sitting here in my tool shed than it is to go out and on a trail and get a bunch of people to, me get out there with cameras. Right. It would take weeks, or it takes a lot of effort to do a decent off-roading video. And then when nobody watches them, it's like, why bother? I can sit here in an hour or two and squeeze out a video, mm-hmm. and more people are interested in them. So. Yeah, combination of things.
Do you think? I mean, your channel has been growing quickly, and I think you could probably plot the course of when you started making GMRS videos. They really started to take off. What do you relate to? Yeah, vertical.
It really was. It really was.
What do you attribute that to? Like, why do you think your channel has grown so quickly?
I want to say it's because people love me. but I think more people hate me than love me.
It works both ways.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of interest in GMRS, obviously. A lot of people like me probably thought, well, the only option was ham, and then somebody tells them about GMRS and they want to learn more about it. And there's a lot of radios out there, a lot to choose from. And I was going to say there's a lot to learn about GMRS. There really isn't. It's pretty simple, but there are some things you need to learn, and people want to learn. They're interested in GMRS.
So Jay Black in the chat says, because we like you. That's why people watch, which I think is true. I think that's generally true. I think, actually somebody mentioned that also in the chat. They said, it's really funny how people say they hate you, but yet they show up every time you post a video.
And they keep leaving comments to tell me how much they hate me and how much I've butthurt they are. And yeah, it really is fun sometimes to, no matter what you do, there's no YouTube channel out there that everybody loves them. So, every channel, Josh, there's probably one or two guys that don't love you.
Oh, I know them probably by name, some of them, right? Yeah.
So I figured, if no matter what, people are going to hate me. And if I say what I want to say and more people hate me, I don't care. And
there's a quote, I don't know who it was. Jason, Ham Radio 2.0 definitely knows it. Something along the lines of, if no one's hating you, that means you're not doing anything.
You're not doing it right.
You're not, or, something along those lines. I butchered it, but you get the idea.
Yeah, yeah.
So before we get into the radio stuff, I got a couple of questions still for you. The big one, and this is when it starts heating up a little bit. Here we go. Get limber. Do you have an amateur radio license? The world wants to know. I think you might have talked about this, but you can let all the hams know that's watching right now.
I do not. Why would I? Why, people leave those comments on, why not just get a license? Why not just ham radio operate? Why? Why? I don't, you can more power, more, I don't care. I don't want to do any of those things. I have no reason. No, the answer is no.
Because specifically, when you're talking about off-road, your primary interest or use case, I guess you could say, of the radio, aside from having fun when you're at home, is when you're in your vehicle, your Jeep, right?
Right.
Is there any kind of situation where you'd like to beacon out where you're at or send a message to a significant other or something like that when you're out there? Is that of value?
So there is, and this was one of the reasons why we started looking at ham, where I started looking at ham in the beginning, was for an emergency, right? If there's an emergency, you got to be able to reach somebody. And that, I have to admit, that would be nice because there are a lot more ham repeaters out there than there are GMRS repeaters. And that would be nice. But even when it would just be, we never go alone. So we've always got multiple people in our groups, even if it's just me and friends, we've always got multiple people. So if something bad were to happen, we could drive out and get to a radio or cell service or whatever. There have been times where we have had to medevac a guy out that had his arm bone sticking out of his arm because he crashed his motorcycle into a Jeep on the trail because he was going too fast. And that hit me then. I was like, wow. So I might have to jump on a ham repeater and call for help, even though I didn't have a license because it was a life-threatening emergency.
Right. That's okay.
But that wouldn't have done much more for us. We were able to medevac him, get him out, and but that would be nice. So I'll give you that. The more repeaters would be nice, but we'll get by with what we've got.
And I think that's the thing people need to keep in mind is ham radio is such a huge hobby. Like, yeah, you can go take it off-road if you want to, but, there's people who do satellite stuff. There's people who just work on HF. You're talking, the big antennas, like when you're driving down the road. That's not really what you do, though, right? Like, you like to go off-road and how much.
Yeah, I just need to talk to the guy behind me or the guy at the end of the group.
Right.
That's it. So, yeah.
It's always a challenge, and I talk about this on the podcast with my wife, that for some people that get into ham radio and obviously now GMRS, they're looking to just accentuate what they're doing with their lives. They're not trying to make their lives all about ham radio like I have, right? Like you are doing
Some of us
something.
have lives.
Right. And that's the thing that shocked me when we were planning this live stream beforehand. Randy said, I like to go do things on Saturday. I'm often out of the house. I'm like, what is this? What is this going outside business that he speaks of? But that's like the type of person you are. And so that's where GMRS fits in. And there's a lot of people like that, obviously, because it's big right now, right?
Yeah. A lot of people just need to talk to a guy a couple of vehicles away or a mile away. And they, it's a whole different breed of people, I think. Just, you've got your hobby, and that's what you do. My hobby is going out off-roading and, breaking things in my Jeep. Your hobby is spending money on radios.
That's right.
They're both very expensive hobbies.
Now, if we could get you into the confluence of off-roading and parks on the air, then we might be able to convert you into a ham radio operator. Have you ever thought about parks on the air?
Yeah, well, the Jeep can get us to a lot of interesting places.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's this is the first time you're on the stream. We'll get you back on here, and Randy and I are going to do a video in the future, having a fun. Just I don't know what we haven't decided completely, but it'll be something fun on the differences between ham radio and GMRS. Obviously, you get VHF, UHF, which we talked about a little bit, or VHF. You get a little bit further with ham radio than GMRS radios generally, depending on the situation. But so why do you think, and this is going into one of these other areas, why do you think we collectively, and you get a lot of this, and that's why we're asking you here, why do you think you get so many experts in the comments? It feels like you get a large percentage of people that want to comment on things, and some of those things they're commenting on you didn't even really talk about. Like, it's not even really the topic of your video. You get why do you think that comes from?
Well, you get that everywhere. Any topic, people are idiots, I guess. But it seems that on my videos, and I've seen it on your videos and other videos, it seems like maybe, possibly, some people just really want everybody to know how smart they think they are, and they just can't wait to get on there and just start spreading the word about how awesome they think they are. And I always do my best to make sure everybody sees exactly how smart they are, which usually is not very smart.
I love your approach to it, because I mean it's tough because it's slightly diametrically opposed to what I do. Like, I always generally
you're a nice guy, Josh.
Well, thank you.
Admit it.
No, I tried. I've always told myself that even in the worst troll comment, there's probably some sliver of truth and something that I could probably do better at, that I could internalize and work with. But sometimes I must admit that a lot of them are just trash. And the way you handle it is you are adept in dealing with that, I must say. So kudos to you.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been dealing with jerks all my life. So I don't usually call them jerks, though. But
then going along with that, now you get to define what is a sad ham, because I understand what it is, but I think a lot of people, maybe people in the chat room, they don't truly understand. It's not all hams, right, Randy?
That is right. And and I've said this many times in many videos, most ham radio operators are great, upstanding, smart, well-dressed people. The sad ham is the guy like we just talked about in the comments, not just on YouTube videos, online. They're more prevalent online. It seems to be there where they feel more comfortable. I've never met a sad ham in real life. They tend to dwell in the basement and only come out online. And they're the guys that they're just jerks. They're arrogant. They're self-righteous. They're just, I've had a ham radio operator's license for 50 years, so everything I say must be correct, and how dare you question me?
Right.
And the funny thing is that I think most ham radio operators understand the difference. They know that there's the jerks out there, and then they know that there's the majority, which aren't jerks. It's the sad hams that don't realize this, and when I'm disparaging them to their face, they get very upset and think that I'm talking about all ham radio operators, because they must think that they're all that way, the way that they are. but it's not all ham operators. It's the jerks, basically.
That's a really interesting point, and I think you're right. I knew what you meant the moment you used the term. Like I got it immediately. But the ones who take umbrage with that term, I think then want to believe you are speaking about all hams.
All of them. How dare you make fun of all ham radio operators?
Right.
I'm not making fun of ham radio operators. I'm making fun of you jerk off.
So I get it, and I think it's worthy to mention it again, because not all hams are sad hams, but you have to be a ham to be a sad ham.
Right. And the bad thing is, and I've mentioned this a few times also, is that and you asked if I had a ham radio operator's license. I don't, and it is primarily because of the sad hams who I ran into online. Which if somebody is thinking about being a ham, they're going to go online, right? 99% of people, they're searching online, and that is who they see first. They see these not so nice people, and they made it very clear to me that someone that has the audacity to ask a question is just not welcome in their little elite club. And I was like, no thanks.
And sadly,
they killed it for me.
That exists in the club space too, to a degree. Like if you go to a club meeting, there's some folks that just all they want to do is get on HF, and they have no interest in any of the digital modes or anything like that, right? That kind of stuff. So I knew exactly where you were coming from the moment I heard it, and thanks again for repeating it. I will go back, but we gotta start talking about some radios here. We're
radios.
I could talk with Randy for well over an hour here, but Dawn N5SKT sent a question. And this is another question that you answer all the time. What does Randy's channel's name mean? I'll let you mention it, because I know you've said this so many times.
All right. So the channel name is NotARubicon Productions, or the NotARubicon. As you recall, as we mentioned earlier, I was primarily and originally for a couple of years an off-roading video channel. That's all I did. Lots of off-roading videos. And in the Jeep world, a Rubicon Jeep is the high-end trim. It's the higher-end Jeep that you buy from the Jeep man. It's called a Rubicon.
Pre-equipped, top of the line, top spec.
Exactly. I couldn't afford a Rubicon, so my Jeep is not a Rubicon. It's the bottom of the line. It is now better though, because I've put so damn much money into it after breaking it all the time. So my Jeep is not a Rubicon. It's better. And that's where the name comes from. It's not a Rubicon. And you see on the sticker on the hood of the Rubicon Jeeps, it says Rubicon. Mine says not Rubicon.
Yes. Yeah. I don't own a Jeep, but of course I see them all the time. But Ham Radio Pen Pals, thank you for the super chat. He says, here's to the sad hams and their moms. So thank you very much, Paul. Appreciate it. All right, so let's talk about some radios. I posed a question to Randy, and it seemed like we could break this up in two ways. I know that hams in general are a diverse group, but I know a lot of hams that just want to get a radio, pick it up, and get on with their life. They are the adjacent to GMRS users kind of thing, right? Where they want it to be a part of their lifestyle and get on with it. And then there are people like me. I will self-admit this. I like to tinker and muck around and do all this other stuff. So I call that fiddling with, where you like to fiddle with the radios. So, Randy, we're going to break this down in two ways. What do you feel is the best grab and go or simple but effective GMRS HT that you would recommend to people out there that are hams and would like to add GMRS into their capabilities, which I support, 100% support? What are your thoughts?
All right, so grab and go. I have two, because you asked for one, but I'm giving you two because I
like it. Overachiever. I like it.
So simple, grab and go, Wuxin Ocean, KG 805G radio. Very simple interface, not a lot of buttons. Basically, you turn it on, you put the channel on, and you talk. Or the Boofwang UV9G. I don't know how that shows up there.
I was waiting to hear Boofwang. We made it. Okay, we got it. We're in there.
This is a few more options, a few more buttons, but it's waterproof. I really like that about this, and it's cheap. I don't know, it's $30 or $40. So those are my two favorites for adventuring, or for handing to somebody that's never touched a radio before. If you hand them something like this, even though it's still simple, those buttons can scare away somebody, but that's
I'm
very
going to
simple.
go off the trail for a second because you hold up the Boofwang. The water resistant Boofwangs I've found, they have to have the special cable for programming. Do you ever connect a GMRS radio to a computer for programming?
Yeah,
Do you do
usually
that?
when I do a review, I almost always do. Once I learn to use it, I always recommend that you know how to do it like a man on the keypad, because I don't take a computer with me out
You don't
when I'm
take a
out
laptop?
adventuring.
You don't have a tough book?
No, no,
You haven't got the $300 clapped out tough book yet?
no.
Okay.
So I think it's very important that you know how to program it. But yeah, I always connect them up, and it does take that special cable. And I've got a box full of cables that for all the different radios. But yeah, it does take that waterproof cable, and I believe off the top of my head that this one comes with it. I could be wrong though. So you have to go watch the review of this video to see.
Now, okay, so the Baofeng from being a grab and go in your case it's preloaded with the appropriate channels. Does that, and you're going to have to fill in some of the details here. Randy was literally educating me before we went live because I don't understand the world of repeaters fully yet on GMRS. I believe they're very much similar to what we have in ham radio. But what do you do for repeaters on a grab and go radio like that?
If it's if it's a repeater capable radio, it'll have at least 8 repeater channels on it. So you've got your basic channels 1 through 22, and then anything above 22, or at least the first 8 above 22, are preset for repeaters. There's only 8 repeater channels in the GMRS world. And on a GMRS radio, the split is built in. So all you need to care about is what channel is it on, and you just go to that channel. You have to put in your tone, which you can do fairly easy on most radios, and that's it. No, you don't have to worry about the splits or split or whatever you guys call it, any of that. It's
offset. But,
offset, right.
So once you say, I think a lot of them I've noticed, by the way, I have 2 real GMRS radios. You kind of have to tell them, go repeater mode. Is that true or not?
No. Most, actually, the only one brand that starts with an M has to go to repeater mode.
That's right. Okay.
And that's okay. We'll talk about that when we get to the. We'll talk about that. But most of them, right out of the box, you just put it on the right channel, in channel 24, for example, and put that tone in, and you're done.
So my wife is in the chat. My wife is one of my moderators. Oh, that's Kevin. That's not my wife. There's my wife. She said, and the correct way to pronounce it, at the risk of sounding like a sad ham, is Bofeng.
No, I think she's incorrect. It is Boofwang.
Thank you, Leia.
Yeah.
I
want to pin that.
Yeah. Pin it. Pin it. All right. So that's the grab and go option. So maybe a ham just wants to have GMRS interoperability, which I've talked about in my emergency preparedness videos. Having a good VHF, UHF mobile ham radio, and then having GMRS capability, because you don't know who's going to show up like with a little Panda radio.
Right, which is compatible.
And ask for help. Right, because it's GMRS. That's right.
Well, it's FRS.
No, I'm saying, but when you're on your better but when you're on your GMRS radio, you can interoperate with this.
Right.
And then if you have a ham radio adjacent, you can transfer that information via your mouth parts through the ham radio to whomever your emergency work with, right? So I that's one of the big reasons for me to support GMRS is that the interoperability of this. It's so easy to buy blister pack radios, hand them out to folks, and be able to communicate with them like on a 50-watt mobile, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that. So let's flip it around. Now, what handheld would someone like me would want for GMRS? Someone who likes to fiddle around, lots of extra features that I probably won't use or need. What would you recommend, Randy?
Well, first I would recommend something like a Motorola XTS 5000. That'll keep you fiddling for months, but that's not a GMRS radio. It's not Part 95.
That's also like equivalently priced to a used car. Like you can buy a Hyundai for
right,
some of the Motorola radios.
So keeping it in the realm of Part 95 accepted real GMRS radios for the fiddler like you, Jason, Josh.
Thank you.
You ham guys all look alike.
I know. Jason and I get confused all the time.
So for that, I would recommend the Wuxen Ocean KG UV9G. This happens to be a UVG9X.
I have that ham radio version of that. So what's the
Yeah.
big differences there with the
Yeah,
GMRS?
well, so it's GMRS, so it's got all the GMRS rules baked in. It's Part 95 accepted. So it's got the basic channels and then the repeater channels in there.
Mhm.
You get these when you get the GMRS one, you can only get it from bettersaferadio.com. It comes preloaded with, I want to say, depending on which version you get, up to like 900 shit hit the fan type channels, frequencies that you can listen to.
900? Why does one need so many channels for GMRS?
Receiving only.
Okay.
That's a great question. I've answered that question 100 times. So they're receiving only.
I'm sorry, I have to ask.
No, that's right. So most GMRS radios can receive outside of the GMRS band. So 2 meter, 77 centimeters. It can receive a lot more weather channels, all sorts of frequencies. So this one in particular, I think, receives more other frequencies than any other GMRS radio out there, including AM airband. So you can listen to everything on this thing.
Well,
and it comes pre-programmed with hundreds and hundreds, like I said, 900, I think it's 999.
Well, I apologize for talking over you because I got really excited there for a second. Because, yeah, that's just the ham radio or commercial radio or whatever that they're flashing different firmware on. So that's probably all the VHF, UHF guts, the Sony guts that's crammed into the body of the radio. That is the Wushan ham radio.
It is Wuxin, Ocean.
Wushan.
Ocean.
We'll have Jason pronounce Wushan. That's always fun when he does it. But now it's basically the same radio. The firmware is the only thing different. So yeah, it could receive widebanded. That's actually a pretty widebanded radio, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact range, but it's everything. You can hear everything.
Does that
do
weather? Does that do weather alert?
It doesn't do alerts. I don't think you can listen to the NOAA frequencies, but I don't think it does alerts. And it has a flashlight.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know that there isn't a Chinese. Someone tell me in the chat, is there a Chinese radio, GMRS or ham radio, that doesn't have a flashlight? That is the one thing that you can always. Baofeng set the mark on that one. There will never be a Chinese radio without a flashlight from what I've seen.
Yeah. The difference on the new UV9GX is that the flashlight actually works and is useful. It's super bright. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's the other problem. Is it's always just a domed LED that they've super glued out the case. That is a piece of crap.
I used to make fun of those all the time. Like who would ever need something like this? But if you ever go out adventuring, one thing we like to do is go and explore old mines that are really dangerous and you're not supposed to go in. And when your first flashlight, runs out of batteries and your second flashlight runs out of batteries and that's all you got, man, I'll take it. So when you need it, it is actually useful.
ARSW0RHP said the UV9G is super het also.
That is true, as is the ADO5G.
Oh, it's also super het.
Yeah, which now GMRS people don't care about that. They only, can I listen? Can I hear my guy talking, my friend talking is all they care about until they go through some area where there's TV transmitters or something, and then they'll start complaining, what is all this static and bleed over I'm getting? Then they care.
Yeah, the front ends can be important. Can be. Got a super chat there from Dan Hildner, KD7DLA, and WRPC295. I watch you both, and Randy, I like your snarky videos. I think Randy does a great job, and that's part of the reason why we're talking today. Randy, let's flip things around. So same concept, grab and go, but for a mobile. Mobiles are they rarer in the GMRS space? I've noticed that as I'm looking around. Are there a lot of mobiles? There's a lot of HTs.
Yeah, not as well. You mean that people have or people using them or
on the market?
No, there's really there's a handful only, very small. So what was the question?
What is your grab and go? And grab and go is probably the wrong term for a mobile, but what's the kind of the simple, easy to use GMRS mobile radio for somebody that has a Jeep and just wants backup comms or just trail comms? They want to all sit on channel 7 and get to work or whatever. There it is.
There it is. It really has to be the MXT 575 or the 500. The 575 has all the controls in the microphone, which is really nice if you've got a vehicle that doesn't have a lot of space, like a Jeep. The 500 is just your normal traditional knobs on the chassis. 50 watts, wide band. There's also a 275 model, which is a little bit less expensive, which the newer ones are also wide band. Midland used to have something against wide band radios, but the newer ones now, they were narrow band only. So this is by far very simple. It's like a CB radio, except instead of CB, it's GMRS. You turn it on out of the box. It doesn't even support repeaters. You have to go into the menus, which are very simple. You have to enable repeaters because Midland sells these radios to people like you just said that just want to talk to the guy in the car behind them or in their group. They may not care about repeaters. So if they want to take that extra step and enable repeaters, they can. But otherwise, it's just 22 channels. It's not even 22 channels because it skips a few channels. But it's just very simple. You cannot get any more simple than those Midlands.
So with that said, because this question was kind of targeted for a buddy of mine. So Miles, I don't know if you're watching right now, but so you got your simple radio. That radio is particularly nice because you can kind of bury the body somewhere. Same kind of thing we do with the ham radios and whatnot. But how about the Jeep people? Where does Randy put his GMRS antenna on his Jeep? And what is your recommended way to do that? Because I've talked to Jeep people and they show me their vehicle and I'm like, I don't know where I'm supposed to put the antenna on this thing.
Yeah, it's tough because most of them have fiberglass tops.
Yep.
Some people will put them up on their front fender cowling so they can get a little bit of a ground plane. I put mine in the worst place you could put it, which is in the rear, basically the rear corner, right above or next to the tail light on the tailgate. And there's very little ground plane there. And if you go online, you will see that all of the experts say that you can't put it there. It won't work. Well, guess what, Mr. Know-It-All? It does work, but it doesn't work at 100% efficiency. It only works at 92% efficiency, which is fine for normal people that just want to talk to their friend a couple of miles away. And I have talked using I've gone through a lot of radios in my Jeep, but using my Wuxen Ocean 1000G, easily talk 40, 50 miles when I've got some decent line of sight, to guys across the valley and so on. So rear quarter tailgate panel there works fine for me. Not a perfect ground plane, but it works just fine.
Do you find that you need to get it elevated, or you just got it right there, right on the?
No, mine goes an inch or two above the roof line. It would be better if I had it on the top center with a big metal sheet on top. But I've only got about this much clearance between the top of my Jeep and the garage top. So that's not an option for me.
So I misunderstand. I think you said quarter panel. So you're talking
rear fender. Because
the Jeep's kind of a open backed design because you got that top part that. Well,
mine's all squares, like a big brick. On beach balls. So above the taillight, basically on a bracket, so it's away from the metal of the vehicle, just sticking an inch or two out, basically right at the corner of the tailgate.
But by the tailgate / rear light.
Right. Yeah. Right at the corner. Right at the corner.
And you found that's pretty good for all your trail comms, but then you said you've also gotten like 50-mile plus.
It is plenty fine for any normal person. Yes. We've got two Jeeps. We've got the NotARubicon, and my wife's is a Rubicon, which is actually a Rubicon. Exact same location on her Jeep. And a lot of the guys either put it on that corner there, or they'll put it in the center, like center of the rear where the spare tire is, which also has very poor ground plane.
Yeah.
And we have never had issues. It works plenty fine there. Not perfect, not 100% accuracy or efficiency, but 90%.
I got a comment there from Don N5SKT. One of my big things is bonding for mobile antennas, but everybody has to keep in mind I'm trying to get on HF ham radio, so I'm trying to get down to like 40 meters with it. So I need like the whole car has to be the ground plane, right? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about 70 centimeters, which means just a little bit, a decent chunk of metal will get you where you're going, pretty much, right?
I don't even know what bonding is. I mean, when we're off-roading, that means hugging my friends.
Yeah, no, it's not hugging.
No.
It's where all your doors and tail hitches and exhaust systems are all electrically connected to the body of the
Okay,
the
so
vehicle.
I do have a ground strap that goes from the antenna, from the mount, because into the body of the well of the vehicle. Because when you're on the tailgate like I am, there's not a good electrical connection between the tailgate and the rest of the vehicle. So I guess mine is also bonded,
Right.
and that helps with the SWR, and I guess that helps somewhat. But beyond that, I don't worry about making sure the whole thing is bonded together. I don't care. It works.
I'll pause for a question from the chat because I'm sure you get this one a lot too. Question: can you use, it says 50 mobile ham radio on GMRS frequencies if you have both licenses? This is a great question. We both get these questions all the time.
Right. So sure, yes, you can. But so in order to keep the FCC happy and not make them sad, they only want you to talk on a Part 95 accepted radio on GMRS. So for example, if you had a Motorola MXT or a XTL 5000 mounted in your Jeep perfectly, they wouldn't like that. But so technically, you don't want to make the FCC sad.
Right.
I
think
don't
Jeff
want to
had the right
endorse
answer.
on some other channel making the FCC sad.
Yeah, Jeff there said, can you, and it is legal are two different questions.
Right.
Which legality was also a point you hit on your last video you did, is like, how does the FCC know you're doing any of this stuff? You raised a really good point that there's technically not a law. It is a rule.
Rules, right.
It's
They're
an
backed
FCC
by law.
rules.
They're different.
They're
and
backed by law, right.
Right. And if you were to get and that is a huge if, but when the FCC comes after someone, it is backed by law, and you would get in trouble. They would propose a fine, and I don't think anyway, you can get in trouble. Even though it's not a law, people call it laws. It's not illegal. It just, it's a fine line, and that administrative law gets funny, but it's not a law. Congress makes laws. The FCC doesn't.
Correct. They
make up
send
shit
letters.
as they go along.
They
Stuff
send
as they go
letters.
along.
They send letters, right?
They don't even do that very often, but yes, they do. They do send letters.
So then we'll top it off with what is Randy's preferred recommended GMRS mobile radio for the ham radio fiddler, the person who likes to muck around with GMRS radios.
Yeah, there's not a lot in the fiddling department out there, but for Part 95, preface for a Part 95 real GMRS radio, you can't beat the Wuxen Ocean. Is it focusing? KG1000G. Is it in focus? I can't tell.
KG1000D.
1000G, 50 watts, very capable. You can store a 250 or 999, I forget, a large number of repeaters. Fairly easy to use, but it's functional, programmable, buttons on the top, removable faceplate, which I love. Again, in a Jeep or a vehicle where there's not a lot of room, you throw the chassis under the seat or wherever, and you just run a single cable up to the faceplate, which the microphone then plugs into. My favorite Part 95 high-powered mobile radio, available only at buy2aradios.com.
Is that, so let me make sure I understand. You said the microphone plugs into the head unit?
Yes, the faceplate.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, very nice.
So it's, I hate wires, and it's just got one like a Cat 5 type wire that goes from the radio up to the head unit, and very clean installation usually.
Let me pull up the website really quick for people. So yeah, Buy2A Radio has it. It's $369, but guess what? Randy already made a video on it, so it's out of stock when he went live with that video, I assume. Pro
tip, do not wait for it to say in stock, because if you wait for it to say in stock before you buy it, you will never get one. Depending on the status, how far out it is, they will let you pre-order it. So if it lets you pre-order it, you pre-order it, and all those other guys that are waiting for it to say in stock, you're going to get yours first, and all those other chumps are going to keep waiting.
So you're saying, give them your money now.
Exactly. Yeah.
For a radio in the future. That's the,
that you may someday get.
Cheeseburger's argument of radios, right?
Right.
That's how it works.
Very well put.
We got some questions. Let me go back a little bit here and grab some of them. I did tackle one. Let's see. So let's go back to something you said earlier. What's the deal with Midland? You mentioned something about Midland. I think it was dealing with repeaters. What's the story there and why?
Well, I think so they used to make only narrow band radios, which I'm sure your audience understands the difference between wideband and narrowband.
Yes.
And I
Hopefully.
that.
You know what? Go ahead and say it. Just because sometimes we got new people in here. Go ahead. Mention it.
Narrowband is narrow and wideband is wide.
Yeah, okay.
So what that means is in the real world, when you're talking to people with other radios, usually which are wideband radio, if you're talking to them on a narrowband radio, the narrowband radio will sound, will have lower deviation, lower modulation. That will sound quiet, and we can always tell when either on our repeaters, because I do have a couple repeaters, or just when we're out on the trail. If you're not right next to each other, if the signal's a little bit weak, you just can't hear them well. Mm-hmm. And that's all that Midland made for a long time. And if you're talking between two narrowband radios, it's fine. You don't notice. But when you talk to other people with real radios, that made a problem. So now they're making the wideband radios, which is great. The other thing is that they're marketing most of their radios, their mobile radios at least, not to what I call radio dorks, either GMRS radio dorks or ham radio dorks. They're just marketing it to somebody that just wants a radio that they can talk to their friends with. So they don't work with repeaters out of the box, because most people that just want trail comms or road comms, they don't need that. So you have to go in and enable repeaters. Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. What do you feel about that? Is that it wasn't that big a deal. I've got the same, literally, guys. I have that radio that Randy mentioned because of this. We were talking with my Jeep buddy. He wanted a radio, and I picked up the Midland because it's simple, and he wants a simple radio. So I was like, sure, this is the one.
Right.
Probably going to sell him that one or give it to him. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy one because I want something that's more capable, but there are a lot of, that's another thing.
You're a fiddler too. You're a GMRS fiddler.
I want my full range of GMRS capabilities. But just because I want it I understand that other people may want something different. Other people have different needs, and there are a lot of people that just want something they can plug in. And that 575, that radio, the Midland radio, comes with the antenna, comes with everything you need right in the box.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, they're sold out already, as a matter of fact, because they just started selling that. They just released that one. And already
they
sold
were
out.
Marketing that hard. They pushed it to email. They had a Skywriter outside of my house, I think, doing it. No, I'm just kidding.
Did they? Oh, no, they just sent me one. I did a video and it sold out. But a lot of people want that simplicity because they're not all radio dorks like us. I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's not a bad thing.
And that's neither good nor bad. I think that's just again, going back to the kind of where we started this, is that GMRS is kind of the radio service that's really good for people that want radio to be an added feature, a perk
it's not a
of
hobby.
Their lifestyle. It's
not a
hobby in itself.
Right.
Very well said.
Although a lot of people, latent hams, get started in GMRS, they don't realize that really deep down inside, they want a hobby, and then they move on to ham because it can do more and all of that, whatever. But it's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
Gateway to ham.
Yeah, I love that aspect of it too. That's why I think supporting all of it is really good. We got a question earlier from Jody, VE5SAR. Jody says, question, how popular are the Garmin Rhino series or the more expensive Tread series in the off-road community? Those are like the unobtainium radios, right? They're like $500 a pop for one of those things.
What kind of idiot would take a $500 radio off-roading where the chances are you are going to drop it or leave it somewhere? No, I've never seen one. I look at people's radios because I've never seen one out adventuring ever. So I guess the answer, Jody, is they're not very popular.
Yeah. Question, call sign announcements on GMRS. I was also curious about this, and Randy, we talked about it a little beforehand. How often do you give your call sign? And then what do you feel is like kind of the experience out there on GMRS with call signs right now?
When we're on, so the FCC says I think when you start your transmission, and then once every 15 minutes if you're in a long conversation.
Ooh, you get 15.
We get 15 because, yeah.
We get 10.
because we're not as smart as the ham guys.
That's it. We,
So
well,
we
or
forget more
you're
often.
smarter because we forget. That's why we have to
Right.
do it every 10
Right.
minutes.
So when we're on repeaters, we hear it a lot more. When we're off road, honestly, nobody cares, and it's rare that you hear when you're out adventuring, they're not giving their call signs. That's just the reality. But on repeaters and on our repeaters, we ask that everybody, follow the rules, and you'll hear them out there all the time. But off-roading and just on simplex, it's rare.
Oh man, we got a lot of questions. I'm trying to go through them. By the way, if you type question in the chat or tag me, Ham Radio Crash Course, I'll see it. Because we're definitely in the Q&A period at this point. Someone knows a little bit about you, Randy. Richard says, question, is his repeater still made of 2 of those radios? And I'm assuming he was talking about the Wouxun KG-1000G.
Yeah. So that was my first repeater that I put together just kind of as an experiment, and I learned a lot. It's kind of like ham radio. I guess there is a little bit of ham in me.
Mm-hmm. Every Easter.
Very little. Yeah, exactly. So I put that together. I learned a lot. I no longer use that. I'm now using a VXR 7000 repeater, which costs a lot more, but it's not 2 radios strung together with wires and stuff, just a much better radio. So no longer using the homemade repeater.
John Strand asks, where can I get Randy's t-shirt?
Normally, I would say in the information section,
right,
or the affiliate link below, but that doesn't work here on this channel.
Well, send me your links. I'll post them. I'm happy to post them. We'll post them in the description.
All right, I'll send them
But
to
you
Josh.
can tell him. You can tell him right now, just in case he's looking.
Well, you go to any one of my newer videos and go in the information section, and there's a link that says, where can I buy one of your shirts?
Yes.
Click there.
But Randy will send me the links, and we'll drop them. And that also includes the Buy Two Way radio stuff as well. So, all right. So I think somebody just wanted to say it more than anything. Arthur Huron says, but how many fars will it go? And that could have also been Mike K at MRD. He really likes that term too.
Yeah, many fars. And if you get a bigger antenna, you can talk farser.
Right, farser. At some point, though, because it's 70 centimeters, you don't get much more fars out of it. Right? Because it's just a little itty-bitty thing most of the time.
On my Jeep, I've gotten just at 90 miles to one of our repeaters, and that was stretching it. And I don't know that you could get much further. 90 miles is my limit, and it was like 92 miles.
That's good.
And that was to a repeater. Good. That was to a repeater, though. So radio to radio, I don't think I've ever done more than, 30, 45. I don't remember exactly. 40-ish, 50-ish miles.
I've done 100 miles simplex before, but that was on 2 meters, and I think we were helped out by some sporadic some atmospheric stuff. But elevation helps. We've got a lot of great mountains out here in Southern California that if you're high enough up,
you're on the right side of it, the right end of it,
right,
it's really helpful.
By the way, for anybody that doesn't know, Randy and I actually we live in Southern California, and we're separated by a mountain called Santiago. So we could have been doing part of this on GMRS, but we've got a mountain in between us, I think. Right. Don asks, what is the lingo like on GMRS?
GMRS lingo is normal English. And we can always tell when a ham radio operator is slumming on GMRS because he'll come in with his Alfa Romeo Tango blah, blah, and we're like, what? Can you say that in English? Say that in English?
Well, you guys don't have Q code? You don't have Q code?
No. Plain English GMRS is for normal people with normal conversations. No lingo. English.
Let's see. Oh, hey, there's Jagger. Question, are GMRS folks as excited to chat to anyone and everyone that comes on frequency like hams are?
No. So, most GMRS users are just there to talk to their friend in their Jeep. Now, you get on the repeaters, and there's groups and cliques. We've got our own little group for our repeaters out here, and we talk and we chit-chat. They're not usually out there just waiting for somebody to come and talk to, and we can always tell when those people come in and just they're just looking for someone to talk to. And that's not really what GMRS is for. You're not there to make contacts, generally, which is what I think you guys call that.
Rag chew. We call it
Yeah,
rag
okay.
chewing.
Now, some of that does go on. You don't find that on
I
simplex.
got my rag right here. We're gonna get on
Yeah.
GMRS after this.
So if that's what you want to do, GMRS is not the place. You may find it and it happens, but that's not the primary reason that people are there. Less rag chewing.
Let's see. Oh, here's a really good one. Where is it? Question: to get Randy to get his ham radio license as a fundraiser? Well, I don't think Randy needs a fundraiser to get his license. I think we just have to. I've got to bait the hook well enough to get him interested in ham radio. I think.
But why? Why? Well, so we do so. When we do our off-road events, we try to do at least once a year a fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
We did a breast cancer fundraiser event last year. That's where we had 130, 150 vehicles. We raised a lot of money. So actually, that's kind of maybe a good idea.
Yeah, there you go. That could be fun. All right. Let's see. Oh, wrong one. Let's see. Got that one.
Jeeps look cooler with more antennas. Yeah, they do.
Question: Peter and repeater key up at the same time. Who is heard first?
Is that a real question or is that?
I don't know. Oh, okay. Here you go. This is a good one. Is there a GMRS unit that would pair Bluetooth with a snowmobile helmet comms? That's probably down a Canadian. They'd call it a snow machine, right?
There's not one available that I have ever seen or that I'm aware of. There are some little plug-in Bluetooth modules that you can use. I haven't tried one, but none that come out of the box with that capability that I've ever seen, and I've seen them all.
Does Randy have a bit of nerd in him? From Marvin Dreesen.
I think I do. Yeah. I'm ashamed to admit it.
I think we're going to be able to get Randy into getting ham radio. I don't know. I'm thinking about how I come at that. There's a little bit of tactics there, I'm thinking. Let's see. Oh, that's a great question. Thank you, Don, N5SKT, again. By the way, I'll take a minute to say I'm going to wrap up the show as we hit the hour here, and I will still be doing the Discord after chat. So yeah, if you want to hop over there, I'll do the best I can with GMRS. Randy is actually a person that lives a life, we found out. He's got things he's got to do, so he might not be able to join us. But anyway, yeah, I'll still be out there. And Don is one of our regulars. So he asked Randy about antenna choices. Randy, do you have a hot recommended antenna choice for GMRS?
Everybody that asks me for a mobile GMRS antenna, I always tell them about the Midland MXT 26A, I think it is. It's their 6 dB gain antenna. And the reason for that isn't because it works any better than any other similar antenna. It's because every one that I've used 3 or 4 of them, they all come pre-tuned right out of the bag perfectly. I've had better luck with those than any other antenna as far as tuning. So if you're into tuning and you want to tune and you can't wait to get and cut one, then that isn't for you. But I like that MXT 26A just because I can take it out of the bag and use it without messing with it.
I was trying to pull that up before you finished, but you said it was the 26A?
I think it's 26A. It's this Midland 6 dB gain antenna. It's an NMO mount.
Is that generally what they all are, as NMO mounts too?
Yeah. Yes.
Interesting. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up really fast. Well, I'll go to the next question and we'll maybe pull it back. Let's see. Oh, wow, we got a bunch of them just popped up. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to follow. There's a lot of questions. And thanks, Randy, for being a trooper through all this and answering the questions. All right. Okay, here's a good one. Stuart asks, the GMRS repeaters in my area are not open, and the guy that owns them refused to answer my request for access. There is no open repeater for 25/30 miles in any direction. Any suggestions?
I do have a very good and useful suggestion. Be a pillar of your community and put your own repeater up and make it open for everybody to use.
That is actually a really good. Now, how does that work? By the way, this is actually my question now. I have been told, at least down here in Southern California, getting a repeater up for GMRS is a little black magic-y. Is there a process for setting up a repeater? Like if you wanted to put one up on Santiago or something like that, like what do you go through to do that?
Well, if you want to just put it up at your house, like my repeater is just, I've got an antenna on the roof. You just plug it in and turn it on and start using it. There's no process. If you want to put it at a commercial site, we have another repeater in our little NotARubicon network of repeaters that is at a commercial protected, radio site up like at Santiago. You got to pay. You got to pay the guy that owns that site rental to get it in there. But as far as like FCC, there's really nothing, and you just got to find a place to put it and put it up.
How do you prevent from stepping on each other? Because you have a limited amount of repeater frequencies.
Right. Yeah. In GMRS, we all have to get along and act like big boys. And we ran into issues when we put our second repeater up.
Yeah.
That there was another repeater many fars away from us that we didn't even know was there because they didn't have it listed. mygmrs.com is pretty much where we go to look who's got repeaters on what frequencies so we can find one that's open. They weren't listed. We didn't even know about it until they started complaining about us stepping all over them. We basically killed it because we were 5,000 feet above them and had
more
power.
FARs. You had more FARs.
Yeah, many more FARs. And you just got to get along. And we offered, there was some friction between us, but finally they ended up moving. Basically, because there's no coordination, it's just you have to get along. Generally, that means the bigger repeater is going to win. Unless you're new, like if there was another frequency that was open, we would have moved it. It was no big deal. But in Southern California, there's no open frequencies, especially at that location of our second repeater.
That's wild. So in ham radio, we have a similar problem, obviously, line of sight comms type stuff. But we have volunteer coordinators, frequency coordinators that will actually work with you to help pick the right frequency set, right? Because it's got to be a frequency set to avoid that capability. But you guys just kind of talked it out like individuals, like individual human beings, and figured it out.
Yeah, it was ugly for a while in our case, but the bigger repeater almost always wins. Or the bigger jerk, one or the other.
Bigger repeater. Sometimes more power helps, it sounds like.
Yep.
From Spud, how much heat do you catch from the ham well actually crowd on some of your videos?
So when people are leaving constructive comments, written like they were written by an adult, I actually welcome those, especially because I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. I'm just some YouTube hobo out there making stuff up.
We're all out here trying.
Making it up as I go along. So a lot of times those are helpful. And they're right and I was wrong and I'll put a correction in or whatever. But most of the time, it's like a 9-year-old was writing it and I don't know if they want to call me names more than they want to say I'm wrong or whatever. And I've got a list of rules for comments on my channel. On every video, it says, if your comment was deleted, click here to see why. And there's, 6 or 7 rules or however many there are. And I'll delete them. If they're being trolls or jerks about it, I'll remove them. But otherwise, if they're right, then if they're right, they're right.
But you are, like you said, you post corrections when that's the case. Most of the time, I'm assuming if they got deleted, though, it's not necessarily for that, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think I have never deleted a comment just because somebody said something to correct me. No, if your comment got deleted, it's because of one of those rules and basically because you're a jerk or you wrote it like a 10-year-old.
Got it. All right, let's see. Oh, good question. When is the next Jeep washing video coming out?
Now, I know what he's talking about. Jason, God damn it. Josh, you probably don't know. So one of the videos I made a couple of years ago, a video of the NotARubicon being washed. And you should watch it.
Okay.
I didn't watch. It wasn't me washing it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice young lady that does not live far from me.
Okay. Let's see. I am curious. So this is mostly a joke. I'm curious if GMRSers can have a complete conversation comprised almost entirely of Roger. I don't think so. It sounds like you guys don't do that. You just talk.
Well, Imagine we have on the higher end GMRS radios, the HTs, they have the Roger beep, which we always make sure we turn on to piss off the sad hams.
Yes, please explain why the Roger beep is the most important setting before we wrap things up, because we're pretty much at the end of the time here.
Right. It is the Roger beep on your radio is the most important setting because that lures out all of the radio Nazis who are going to tell us how we need to use our radio because they don't like hearing a Roger beep. So we'll turn it on. They come out and start whining and complaining about it. And what we say is my radio, my choice. And if you don't like listening to it, go listen to something else. I don't care.
I love that. The Yaesu, so Yaesu, which is, not making, I don't know if they have any GMRS radios.
No.
But they had a button that on the FT60, you had to make sure you turned off that button because it made this incredibly long tail squelch that it included like encoded data. So it was just super, super long. And you'd get on a repeater in default and people would just lose their minds if you walked in with that setting on. It was just so funny to do that though. But man, Randy, this is really good. I've got 2 questions to wrap things up here. And thanks everybody in the chat, by the way, for taking the time to send us messages. What's your favorite GMRS brand right now?
GMRS brand? Yeah, I like the Wuxen Ocean radios. I think are best, have the widest choice, good quality. I don't think I've ever been disappointed by one.
What is your favorite radio right now?
Favorite radio, period. Not necessarily.
If you want to give me an order, if you want to give me 3 in a ranked list, that's acceptable too.
So as of now, in my Jeep, I have a Motorola XTL 5000, which is not a Part 95 radio. I use it only for listening to my friends.
Of course.
And for listening on the couch, I have a Motorola XTS 5000. I love those radios.
You got some nice radios. Those are some pretty nice radios.
And we just put a XTL 5000 in the wife's Jeep as well, the NotARubicon. So that was those are my favorite radios. And then up until just not long ago, I had the Wuxen Ocean KG1000G in both of the Jeeps, which Part 95 radio, that's my favorite. Was that the question? Favorite radio? What was the question?
Yeah, that was it. You covered it. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. What about handheld? You did? No, you did mention Motorola XTS.
Yeah, well, when I'm out, the XTS, I keep that in a glass case down in the living room by the couch. But I have, for when I'm out adventuring, I take a XTS 2500.
Nice. It's encased in lucite. It's an acrylic box.
Well, they're tough. But the XTSs are really they're tough radios.
That was radios. The XTS was the one where the cop got shot in the XTS and it saved him because it just and it works as a weapon too. Right.
Because it's that big. It's but they're great. They're great radios.
So, Randy, I really want to thank you for taking the time out of your, again, actually out there doing things lifestyle that you lead. I appreciate what you do, hopping in here with us and keep making the videos. I really do enjoy them. I enjoy the humor in it, the edutainment.
Edutainment. And Josh, before we go, thank you for having me, but I just want to let you know that you are my favorite viewer.
Very good. All right, Randy. Hang on a little bit. I'm going to wrap up the show here, but I appreciate you coming out. Thanks so much. All right, everybody. This was a lot of fun. I knew I'd have a lot of fun with this because I myself am kind of a GMRS neophyte. There's a lot of things for me to learn. I appreciate how it works and everything that goes into it, but there's little idiosyncrasies, like how repeaters, how do you get that authorization? What does that mean? So I hope we answered a lot of your questions. Post below in the comments if this was fun for you guys, and if you want Randy back, leave a comment and we'll talk about it. Want to give a big shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for the support, letting me do stuff like this and buying some GMRS radios. I actually have another one right here that we didn't really talk about. It didn't hit Randy's list, but he tells me it's a good one because I watched his video on it. Also, it's also a Wouxun 935G. Pretty good. I enjoy this one. For those that are on the Patreon, the schedule for the late night or after hours stuff for Hamvention, you guys have the file. The link is there. So there's also a poll. I need some of your help on one of the polls specifically for Thursday. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people in Hamvention space in Dayton proper on Thursday, but if you are there, I'd love it if you came out to the Voice of America tour that we're doing with Jocelyn and the crew there. It's going to be a more technical tour because there's a lot of hams that are coming along with us, but then also we're doing the brewery hangout after. So let me know both on the Facebook if you're going to go or the Patreon. And I'd appreciate that. All right. And cheers. Cheers to everybody. This is a really fun talk. I know we want to have Randy back, and I can't wait for doing a video with him because I think it's going to be a lot of fun and what we can cook up. Again, GMRS and ham radio, we're not at battle with each other. And CB2, you're welcome. Hit MERS even. Let's bring them all in. Cheers to the Brew Crew. We're all a part of the same community of wireless communication. It just depends on how deep down the rabbit hole of nerddom or making it your hobby or your life's passion and goal you are. Some people like to go off-roading with radio, and that's wonderful. We welcome that, and they got to go off-grid too. And so how should they communicate? Wirelessly, via GMRS or ham radio. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'm going to play you out with the memes. 73.
69.
Well, the mic's hot. You can have a little banter. Just know that we're live still, so we can talk a little bit.
In GMRS, we say 69s, not 73. 73 is boring. 69 is
Do you really
boring.
say that? Do you guys really say that?
I do, yeah. I made that up. That's my rule. I've made up 3 rules, all right?
Okay.
Off-road, official off-road GMRS channel is 16. Official highway channel is 19. And we don't say 73s, we say 69s.
That's hilarious. Oh, Randy, good stuff. All right, everybody. I'll talk to you later. See you on the after chat on the Discord. I'll say 73s to the hams, and I guess I'll give a 69 to the GMRSers too, because I'm one of you. I got my license.